If, like me, you've been wishing that your Akai Force had scene automation follow action style, VNC remote control and viewing support, foot controller support, hidden screen access, wireless file access, custom arpeggios, tempo automation, alternative sequencer apps, and a web manager with file access, image, audio, and AV capture from inside your Force, and more, then you've been looking for MockbaMod. In this video, I'm going to be going over the 2024 version of the MockbaMod, essentially MockbaMod 3.3, Akai Force 3.3, Midiloop 4, and if that all sounds like a whole bunch of confusing jumble gobbledygook, well, you know, I'm sorry. This video has chapters down below that you can use to navigate to different parts of the video. If you want to just go to the installation aspect, or if you want to go to installation of certain add-ons, the overview and kind of demonstration of the different features, it's all down there. Just go down there and give it a little clicky click. Yeah, so we're going to go over the features and how to install MockbaMod to be able to make use of all of these phenomenal features. All right, here we go. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go here to github.com/mockbatheborg/MockbaMod. I don't think you need all this. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I do this, bloop, there we go. So you go on down here to where it says latest version. You get the 3.3 version. You download it. It will do its little downloady dance. After you hit the download button, it will anyway. So all you do is you copy this over to a flash drive on your computer. Let's say I have one here, which I don't right now because I'm not messing with that. You go in, you paste it in there in the root of the USB drive, and then you put it in your Force, and you go to menu, go to preferences, go to update, and you're going to want to hit this USB drive update and follow the instructions from there, just like you would with the regular firmware. Next, you're going to put your SD card in, go into your operating system, and format it as xfat, not FAT32 xfat. You can use ext4 if you're in Linux, I believe. Then you're going to rename the volume to 662522. It is very important that you do both of these steps or Mockba will not run. Okay. There's that step. Now we're going to go back to the MockbaMod GitHub page and download the SD card contents. And once that's complete, you're going to want to export that zip file. And once you have, go in and copy all the files from it and save them to the root of our 662522 SD card. Very important that you save them to the root folder, as in the main folder of the SD card. And if you save them anywhere else, MockbaMod will not run. Not even a little bit. Not even a lot. The first time you boot up after installing MockbaMod, it will go through an installation, in which case it will do a reboot and then start up again. It'll start out by seeing this splash screen, and then it will move on to the install. And then reboot. You'll see the splash screen again because it's booting with MockbaMod this time and not just installing it. The splash screen comes on every time you boot MockbaMod. Then just hit the MPC button, and there you go. It'll give you a nice little information screen of how to get to the GitHub, etc. And that's everything. You now have a working MockbaMod on your Force. The first thing you're going to want to do after you install MockbaMod is go to your Wi-Fi, and once it pops up, hold the Shift key and hit Info and look for where it says IPv4 address, and that number is the IP address that you will connect to your Force from your computer with. So right here I'm using PuTTY. You can do this on Linux with SSH and on Mac with SSH as well in command line. But you're going to take that same IP address that you got from info in the Wi-Fi, and you're going to connect. And the login is root and the password is Force, all lowercase for both. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do once you have SSH access is type in Addon-Manager and hit enter, and that will bring up the Addon Manager. With the Addon Manager, you can install add-ons for Mockba over the internet, over your network. So you've got a lot to choose from here. Let's start with the DRM VNC Server. Alright, so you're going to want to type in the number that corresponds with the add-on you want to install. In this case, that'll be number 15. So just type in 15 and hit enter, and that'll start the installation process. The DRM version of VNC Server is a little faster than the regular VNC Server, but it's a little choppy as a result, but I prefer faster, so that's what I'm going with here. Once the installation is done, just type in VNC DRM, lowercase, space, and then start in all caps, and that will start the VNC server. And then you can go to your Force. Alright, I have VNC running already in OBS for this recording, but I'm going to show you how to get it running in Windows with real VNC. So first of all, you'll need to download and install real VNC, and then you're going to add. So here it is. Just download the version for your operating system. Once you have it open, you're going to add a new client. You're going to put in that same IP address again, the IP address for your Force, and that's really all you need to do. And then once you have it going, just double click And there you go. And you can not only view the screen, but you can control the interface with VNC, with your mouse and keyboard if you're on a computer, or with a touchscreen if you're on a phone or tablet or iPad. So first of all, we're going to bring up Addon Manager again. We're going to install the latest version of Midiloop. Yes.
Alright, and then let's see.
Now let's install Nodeserver, just 9. Even at ludicrous speed, this part takes a little while. And now let's minimize that. Let's go to a web browser and let's check out Nodeserver. So, just like with everything else, it's that same IP address you used before, the one that your Wi-Fi shows up for. This is possibly one of the best things that Emit has ever created. It is a full-on web manager for the Akai Force. We can go into File Manager. You can download, you can copy, you can cut or move, you can rename, and you can delete. But that's not all you can do. You can also create a key group from a sample, create a spectrogram. Let's take a look at the spectrogram here. Not bad. And now you see we have a PNG file there. And you can view details. You can take an entire folder and you can choose to make it into a drum kit, or each subfolder in a folder into different drum kits. You can merge samples into a sliced sample, convert into key groups. Just, I mean, look at all this. You can make SFCs. Say you've auto-sampled something on your Force and you want to turn those into an SFC. So you could use it as a key group on the Force and an instrument on your computer. Yeah, all that. All right, so that's the file browser. Let's go back to home. We've got ARP Manager, in which case you can add different ARPs, remove some of them, change them, etc. I'll go into that in more detail in another video. Progression Builder. Yeah, I don't have my progressions folder set. You go into config to set your different folders so it knows where all your stuff is. Okay, you got project templates, and this is where you can change the different templates. This is for if you have the demo template recent selection in the new project dialog and project defaults in your preferences. And then some other things you can do with, you can do captures. All right, so you can see what's on my screen right now. Let's say, let's load a sample. There's that. Okay, let's take a screenshot. And there we go. There's a screenshot, and I can save the image here, for instance. Another thing we can do is video, audio, and audio video. You have to have a separate, an external audio interface plugged in. And what you have to do is you have to have the outputs from the internal force, the analog 1/4 inch outputs, going into the inputs of your external audio interface. And then you can record audio, and audio video with that. We hit video, that starts recording. And then we can just kind of start hitting our buttons and playing stuff. Like I said, there's not going to be any sound in this because this is just video. But this will give you the idea. Okay. Hit the stop button on there. And you can set, with Midiloop, you can set buttons on your force to do all this if you want to. Kind of insane. All right, now we go to the folder. This is the video folder. And download our video. And let's start it playing. There we go. That's what we just recorded. Okay, so in order to record audio or AV captures, you need to have the audio output from your external interface going into the analog inputs of the Akai Force so that it can record into the internal device. All right, so let's give this a shot. We're going to start with audio. Now, I don't have the output of this hooked up into this recording, so won't hear audio until we play the file back. Okay. Okay, there's audio. Let's try video. Okay. That's video. So, all right, next we have Shell Console, which gives you some different commands you can run, and different Linux commands you can run, and these run on the Force. If you want to check your mount status, set to read only. Check your disk space, so it'll tell you all your disk space. You can mount your system as read-write or mount it as read-only. You can list all your mounted drives, etc. Media mounts. You can list your overlays. Some of this stuff, if you don't understand what it is, it's probably for the best. You can list your ARP midis. Let's see here. You can check your eMMC. You can do a verbose log where it just shows you the log of everything going on with your system as it started up to now. You can look at your MIDI inputs, your MIDI outputs, playback devices, capture devices, and you can reboot the device, which I'm not going to do right now. And then from there, you've got config. Again, that's where you put your various folders so it knows where everything is. Extra preferences. You can have MIDI monitor show special input events, clock, active sense, etc. You can turn that off essentially. By default, I'm pretty sure that's on. MIDI monitor show input channel aftertouch. MIDI monitor show special output events, so on and so forth. And then you can make those changes and then save it. Yeah, it's just a really helpful tool. I use captures quite a lot. Helps me to keep track of things. And file manager, just the fact that, you can load this on any device that has a web browser. You can load this on your phone. And let's say, you just exported a song file, and you want to listen to it. So, like for instance, for me, I'd go to my exports file or folder, and there's my files, and I can go to the one I want to download and download it on my device and listen to it. Send it to somebody, whatever you want to do. No need to plug anything in. It's all over your Wi-Fi, or, if you have Ethernet, do it over Ethernet. So, yeah, you can manage all your stuff on your Force so much easier this way. All right, I'm going to demonstrate SFTP by using WinSCP, which is for Windows. It is a free program for FTP, SFTP. But if you're on Mac, you can use, it looks like Termius. I don't know anything about CyberDuck. Termius is actually available for Android. I use it for my Android phone to access files from the Force. Looks like with iPad, there's several options. FTP Manager, maybe just that one. I don't know. It looks like Termius is also available for iPad. So initially with WinSCP, you're going to put in your host name, which will be your IP address again, same IP address. I think the default is 22, and that's fine. Again, username is root, password is Force. Make sure it's set to SFTP, log in, and that'll take you, if you've already used it, it'll take you to the last place you were in the Force. But I think this is where it starts from the first time. It's been a while. But essentially, you want to go to Media. And in Media, you're going to have your flash drive, or SD card, rather. Your Sense folder. Your internal, your Force's internal storage. That's the internal SD card that houses all of your... all of the content that comes with the Force, etc. And then this is what I have my internal SSD named. So we can go in there and see all my folders and files and such. Now this is already on my Force, but I'm going to move it over here for an example. Let's go to samples. I don't think it's listed in my actual samples folder. I think it's just in instruments. So you just drag it over, or you can copy and paste. And it also works to copy and paste between this app and your regular file manager, Windows file manager. But yeah, it just transfers the files on over. And again, this is like right now, this is over my Wi-Fi. This is completely via network. No need to plug anything into your Force unless you're using Ethernet, if you so choose, which is obviously faster if you've got like a lot of files. But even if, unless you've got like fiber to fiber or something, which you're not going to have with the Force, obviously, it's still going to be faster to use USB. But, you know, for just like a few files or a folder or something, or whatever, you know, a random sample or something, it's just so much quicker. And I mean, really, if it's less than 500 megabytes, I'll just go ahead and use this. It's a lot faster and easier than taking the time to plug something in and do it. Now I want to get into how to use Midiloop to set custom button and button combinations on the Force. So with Midiloop, there's a number of the buttons that you can set to a custom command. So for instance, I'm going to walk you through, I don't use the navigate button. So what I usually do with Midiloop is I set it so that the navigate button actually opens sounds, as in the sounds program on the Force. One of the biggest omissions that I am really annoyed by with the Force is the fact that they had this sounds thing and they only gave us this screen as a means of opening it, and it's obnoxious. So that was like one of the first things I set up after Emit got Midiloop set up with custom button mappings. So let's do that. Let's get that done. All right, so what we want to do first is we want to go into whatever program that we're accessing our files from. In this case, I'm using WinSCP. I'm going to go into Media. I'm going to go into our SD card, 662522. And now we want to go into Addons and then Midiloop. And in Midiloop, you'll find a Midiloop config file. Now, one of the things I use WinSCP for a lot is editing files like this. Any kind of config files, text-based files, if you will, can be edited on here, and then you can actually save them. So what we're going to do is we want to set the navigate button. So we're going to go all the way to the bottom where the remappable hardware buttons list is. And what you can do is you can set these to do other things. So right now, hardware navigate button is set to navigate. But we want to do sounds. So I don't remember exactly what it's called on here for sounds. Let me find it. So let's do find. Let's do sounds. Okay. So this one's a little more complicated now, I remember. So what you have to do is use a touch menu command. And essentially it's kind of like a macro that tells the screen to touch a certain spot, like if your finger did. So, for instance, pretty sure this is what I used, this setup here for, yeah, Elliot, you're not getting in here, dude. Hey, no, go on. So, oh my goodness, cat. So I don't know where that's going to actually do right now, if it's going to be where the sounds button is. We're going to have to move stuff on our menu to make it fit. So let's put that here. Oopsie. And now let's save this. And we'll have to restart our Oh goodness, cat. I'll let you in. Give me a minute. So what we want to do is we want to go through and restart Midiloop. Yeah, I don't remember the exact command to do that, so I'm just going to do the command to restart the force. Let me actually switch that over here so you can see what's going on. So I restarted it. Alright, so go into my init one here. Nice, fully empty project. Alright, so now when we hit navigate, it is taking us to sounds. Now the reason it's doing that is because of where sounds is on menu. Sounds is right here. So whatever you have there is what that navigate button will open. Okay, so hi buddy. So if I go into menu and let's say I move the browser over there, now when I hit that, it'll take me to the browser instead. But we want sounds there, so that's what I'm going to put there. The browser back down here. Alright, and so there we go. There's our sounds menu. Well, you want to open drum kit? Okay, cool, there we go. Alright, so next, for me, I like to have access to the sampler without having to go through the menu. So why don't we set that up? So first of all, let's go back into our Midiloop config file. Let's go back all the way down to our remappable hardware buttons. Let's see here. I want to set the plus button. We're going to set that plus button, change that to sampler. I think that will work. We shall see. Let's go through and shift edit plus reboot our force again, or at least restart the MPC binary that runs the Force OS. Go into my init, and now if I hit plus, nothing happens. And there's a reason for that, because in order for some of these commands to work, you have to go into your MIDI sync and you have to change MIDI automation control. Let's see here, MIDI automation control to control. And then if you're going to do any kind of like other stuff with Midiloop, like automation, then you want to go into Mockba automation in and turn track on. So now, when I hit this, there we go, sampler. Apparently it is just sampler. Some of the stuff is somewhat simple. So yeah, so there's sampler, and as you can see, it's getting my microphone right now. So yeah, so I mean, there's our sounds, there's our sampler, and yeah. So let me show you some of the different buttons that you can change. If we go back into Midiloop config, let's go all the way down here. We can change the navigate button, the assign A, the assign B, the minus plus, obviously, clip stop, and hardware up, hardware down, hardware left, hardware right, you know, your nav buttons here. There's also, it doesn't look like it's in here, but on the version I have, sometimes I get some extra features that early. I'm able to also do the stop all. Doesn't look like that's on here. Anyway, so like for me on mine, I usually have my clip stop button set to edit program, which is real handy and quick to do. And then I usually have my stop all set to the step sequencer for editing, automation, etc., as in regular automation. So another thing that I like to do, so if we go down here and we change arrow up to page plus up, and then arrow down to page plus down. So, and you know what, I'm going to do this the easier way. Page plus page plus. All right, save that. Go back here, shift, edit up, restart our OS and therefore Midiloop. And once this finally starts, boom, boom. So quick, so much faster than single arrowing around. It's just lightning fast. And I do not understand why Akai didn't set it this way to begin with. Because as you can see, if you don't have much, right? So like if I start from another like simple project, right? We have only 9, right? So let's go to page over, but there aren't any other tracks, so it just goes where it can go. So it's like, why did Akai make it so you can only do like these little nudge movements that have no speed to them, no quickness of workflow, when they're not necessary? It just doesn't make any sense. So let's go over some of the other features that are included in the MockbaMod. So scene automation, my last video went into a UI that I set up for this to work with Amit and Mockba's automation for Midiloop. Essentially, this works like follow actions does in Ableton Live, and so it's not exactly the same, but it is very, very customizable now in the new Midiloop. The video I did where I showed how I set that up with the UI using the step seek as a means of controlling it. That's just one way that you could do that if you wanted to. Obviously, that same automation can be used for foot controller support, for launching scenes, clips, doing all kinds of stuff. Just about anything you could do with the buttons on the Force, you can do with that, including a whole bunch of, touchscreen commands if you wanted to. You get access to the hidden screens without them randomly popping up. This is actually definitive. I want this to open. This says MPC KEY, but essentially these are screens that I believe they're in all the MPCs. And then multi-boot allows you to boot into different operating systems. This requires you to have different ones. The best way that I use this is if I have older versions of the Force firmware that I want to boot into for various reasons. I haven't used it in a long time though. Custom arpeggios, which that can be set up again in Nodeserver. Wonderful thing to do. Just using MIDI files essentially. Tempo automation. Tempo automation is not 100% stable, but it can be useful. And it does work decently if you set it up right. I will go into that in another video. Addon Manager, again, this is just the same thing we used a little bit ago to install various things right there, Addon Manager. Multiple add-ons, and these are the various add-ons that are listed there as well that you can install. Push Lua. If you have an original Push 1, you can use this to use Push 1 as a controller that gets feedback, shows it on, I think it shows it on the screens. I've never actually used it. I had a Push 1 and I totally meant to set it up for that, and then I ended up turning around and selling it before I got a chance. Drop Sequence is a sequencer that you can use on the Force. Essentially, yeah, I'll go into that. I'll go into all these different sequencers later. Euclidear is another one that Amit made. Socks is actually a Linux app that works on all Linux devices. It's an audio sort of Swiss Army knife for sound processing. DXX is a DX7, DEX, etc. SysX converter, CC to SysX, that Amit used made for, for editing your various FM synths that use DX7 style. Setup, Nodeserver we've already went over. Custom buffer size allows you to set a custom buffer size for your external USB audio interface. This is good if you have an audio interface that glitches and makes a lot of noise. A lot of times you can set this to a custom buffer size that will actually get rid of that. Custom art patterns, we've already discussed that. EMMC repair is, I'm going to do a whole video on this. Last year, I think it was last summer, I started having some major issues with my Force where my Wi-Fi would stop working and it would do all kinds of weird stuff on the screen. And I thought it was because of all the modding I do. But actually what it turned out to be is if your power cord gets pulled a couple times, it can really mess with the EMMC. If you're not familiar or don't understand what an EMMC is, it's essentially think of it as like the hard drive that holds the Force OS, the firmware. And so if that gets damaged like that, it can create issues. Now this is a software issue, not really a hardware issue, even though it kind of sounds like a hardware issue. It is fixable using this EMMC repair tool that, Amit came up with, Amit and Mockba, I believe, both. So we found that if you, it essentially did like a disk repair on that, which is what this is essentially a disk repair for your EMMC. It'll fix that. And so if any of you out there are unable to get your Wi-Fi to work, that is one of the telltale signs that your EMMC has been damaged. And the best way to fix that is to use this EMMC repair tool. VNC Server, I've already touched on as well. I didn't touch on the original VNC Server. I touched on the DRM VNC Server, but essentially they're the same. They just get started up differently. With the regular VNC Server, the best way to do it, or the easiest way, is to enable it in Addon Manager, and you can also stop it in Addon Manager as well. And there are commands for it. I haven't used it in forever, so I don't remember exactly what they are. So yeah, VNC Server, yeah, you know that. Sound Browser UI, essentially that just changes the sounds browser to have like a, hold on, let me switch over here. Essentially that just changes the sound browser to have like a darker contrast, and it actually changes the plugins. So Jura says Juno instead, and yeah. So then Midiloop, obviously Midiloop we've gone over quite a bit. Midiloop is the backbone of your key combos, macros, being able to do screenshots, video capture, all of that. While yes, you can control the screenshots and stuff in Nodeserver, you can also set your buttons on your Force to do those commands as well, because it's all the backbone of all of that is Midiloop. And this goes for the automation as well. The follow action style automation is a major part of Midiloop. MPC effects racks. I have not played around with this, but apparently this is the effects racks that comes with the MPC, or the MPCs, the various MPCs, and you can use them for the Force. I will try that out and do a video on that at some point too, I'm sure. Probably a short one. But yeah, that's all of the MockbaMod in a short description without making a ridiculously long video. So, I mean, that wraps it up for this video on MockbaMod 4, 3.3, whatever you want to call it. I'll be doing some more tutorials on all of these various little bits. I just did one a couple weeks ago on using the automation with a UI type thing that I set up using the step seek to control automating the row playback, etc. Coming up, I'll be doing videos on VNC, setting it up with different kinds of devices, a little more in-depth of how to use the VNC server. I will also be doing a video on tempo changes, how to automate tempo changes with Midiloop. I will be doing some other videos. I do plan on doing a more in-depth video on Nodeserver, as well as a video that covers the various different sequencer add-ons. Probably some other stuff too. So, I mean, yeah, that's it for this video. If you have any questions, do leave a comment below. If you feel like I'm an idiot, or you have something that you want to say about the way that I look, or the way that I record and edit my videos, and how terrible all of it is, definitely comment and let me know, because I'm so eager to hear from you. Seriously though, if you do have any questions, if you do have any comments or thoughts or suggestions, or things you'd like to see in the MockbaMod, which, you know, I don't call the shots there, but I can pass on some info here and there, just let me know in the comments below. And do please click like and subscribe if you haven't already, because yeah, got a lot more coming up.